You're listening to iFan Sports Talk Radio. And now, live from Studio 215 in Low Country, South Carolina, welcome to the Live in 5 Show with your host, Nikki Fu.
Welcome everybody, this is the Live in 5 Show, episode 31, where special episode, I'm going to talk about my personal fantasy football league draft we held last Monday, and I know you're all gearing up for your fantasy football draft. You may already have it. I'm sure a lot of you already had. I'm going to sort of discuss my team I drafted, and some, picks that were pretty surprising, and going through the whole draft with the rest of my league. I'm in a 10-team league where we play one quarterback, two running backs, two receivers, a tight end, a flex, a kicker, and a defensive special team. So we have a franchise league where we get to keep one player a year. You cannot franchise the same player 2 years in a row. Last year I had Jimmy Graham as my franchise player, so I wasn't able to franchise him. Something that we do in our league that a lot of other leagues do too is whoever you franchise, you lose that round draft pick from where you drafted him last year. So I am going to go through my draft. First, I'll let you know my franchise player was Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, in our league, if you picked up a free agent that wasn't drafted last year, you automatically lose an 8th round pick. So he was a free agent. I picked him up at free agency, so I lost my 8th round pick. So I had the 3rd overall pick in this year's draft. My team's pretty much sucked last year. I started off like 1-5. I did come on late in the season, missed the playoffs by one game. Each in our league, our playoffs are 6 out of the 10 teams make the playoffs. The 2 division winners get the first round bye, and the 4 wild cards go at it in week 14. So, of course, the first round, the first overall 3 picks was Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and then it came to my pick, which I picked Ezekiel Elliott. I was sort of looking to get David Johnson. My brother actually drafted ahead of me. He took him, and so I had to go with the next logical choice, which is Ezekiel Elliott. So we'll see how he rebounds this year. He sort of turned it on last year after his suspension, and I was sort of looking at Saquon Barkley too, because there has been some good rookie running backs over the years that have really big impacts on their first year in fantasy football. But I had to go with the sure thing with Ezekiel Elliott. My luck has not really been that great with first-round picks over the past couple years. Last year was a case in point. I drafted Odell Beckham. The guy barely made it through week 3, and he was done for the rest of the season. Glad to see he got his money. So, yes, Ezekiel at number 3. The team after me picked Saquon Barkley, and Melvin Gordon and Leonard Fournette went next 2. Antonio Brown was franchised by the other team, number 7. And then to round out in round 1, Kareem Hunt, Julio Jones, and Jordan Howard, the defending champs in our league, picked him in the first round. Chicago has really not had a great running game in the past couple years, so I was surprised to see him go in round 1, especially over somebody like LaShawn McCoy, who was picked in round 2 at pick 2. We do a snake draft also. In round 2, some notables. Pick number 5, Tom Brady went, and the first tight end went off the board. in round 2, which that's the first time I ever seen a tight end go that early. Zach Ertz from Philadelphia went in the 6th pick in round 2. My second overall pick in the draft, I picked 8 in round 2. I went with Aaron Rodgers. I was thinking about Odell Beckham. I was going to try to get him coming back around in round 3 with the number 3 pick in round 3, but he was quickly taken right after my pick. So in round 3, I went with Stephon Diggs, wide receiver out of Minnesota. So some other notables in round 3, Deshaun Watson, ranked as the number 1 QB in CBS Sports Fantasy. He went the 8th pick in round 3. In round 4, I'm sort of looking at it right now. Another tight end went out and pick number 2 in round 4, Travis Kelce. And Julian Edelman, even with that 4-game suspension, went in pick 6. And I picked up in my 4th round somewhat of a long shot, I would say, but Derrick Henry as my number 2 RB. And a lot of my guys in my draft said that's a great pick. Tennessee does like to run the ball, so we'll see if that pays off for me too. In round 5, I had the 3rd pick, and I went ahead and grabbed my tight end. He's in concussion protocol right now, Evan Ingram. I believe, he is the best tight end in the group, even ahead of Gronkowski, just because I have him ranked ahead of Gronkowski because he's a young kid, he's fast, he's quick, he's got good hands. He's a weapon that Eli Manning likes to use. So I think, he's a good value pick right there at number 5. Jimmy Graham went ahead of him. My brother took him with the 2nd pick in round 5. I sort of didn't want Jimmy Graham. I had him last year, and I was going to look at him getting Jimmy Graham, but I thought, if he was there, I still would have probably taken Ingram. I would have. I like to mix my guys up. I really don't like to have that many guys on the same team. So looking through round 5, not really any players that really stick out. So we're going to move over to round 6. And some running backs went off the board in round 6 with Marvin Ingram at pick number 2 and Kenyon Drake, running back Miami, pick number 3. Pick number 6, Rashard Penny in round 6 also went, along with Lamar Miller at pick number 9 in round 6. So number 7, one of the teams that always has this strategy, the team is called the Sharks. They won the championship a couple years. He likes to draft his QBs late, and he did that again this year, and he picked Cam Newton with the 1st pick in round 7. Drew Brees goes in same round right after him. I went ahead and with round 7, I picked up AP. Everybody's talking about AP. He's sort of had a good preseason, and he is ranked number 1 on the running back depth chart for the Redskins too. So moving along to round 8, that's where I didn't have a pick because I franchised Juju Smith-Schuster. The number 1 pick in round 8, Matt Ryan. Jordy Nelson went number 5 pick in round 8, and not really anybody else that really stuck out over there. Round 9, I picked up Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver, Philadelphia. Right now, he is number 1 on the depth chart for Philadelphia, so I think that's a good value pick right there. Other notables that went in that round, the rookie out of Georgia playing for Cleveland, Nick Chubb, went with the 5th pick in round 9. Moving over to round 10, we have a 16 round draft with 9 starters and 7 reserves. Jimmy Garoppolo dropped pretty down to round 10. I thought he was going to go higher than that. With the the season he had last year after being traded from New England, he went with the 4th pick in round 10. And Demaryius Thomas, man, wow, how much has he dropped? Everybody was in our draft was like, is Demaryius Thomas still on the board? So he was taken. I think it's a great value pick The team that picked him was the Beavers. Our friend Mel from Canada picked him up. Mel's a really good fantasy player that knows his stuff. So we are going round 11, and a couple defenses went off board in round 11 with the Rams and the Broncos. I went ahead and I picked up a insurance sort of running back here, and I'm taking a gamble. It's like a lottery ticket. I am scratching this lottery ticket off, and hopefully it pays off. And I picked up James Conner. With the Le'Veon Bell situation in Pittsburgh, it's just a mess. And, as a Steeler fan, I just do not. I can see what the Steelers are doing. They are going for it all. They're trying to win number 7. They think their chances are great if Le'Veon Bell is on the team. But I think if the Steelers didn't have that great of a team this year and they thought they wouldn't be able to contend for a Super Bowl, the Steelers are the type of organization that just say, to hell with you, Le'Veon Bell. We're going to rescind the tag. Go do what you got to do. We're going to move along with James Conner. And, James Conner, I'm going to try to keep him on my roster throughout the whole year without dropping him. Sometimes I do have to drop somebody like this to pick up somebody to fill a void during a bye week. But if I can keep him on my roster, and he is the number 1 running back going into 2019 with the Steelers, which it looks like it most likely will be, I will lose an 11th round pick, and I'll have a top 5 running back on my team. So let's see if I can hold on to him. And moving along to round 12, looking over here, nobody really sticks out. I picked the Chargers defense up with the 8th pick in round 12. Round 13, I picked Calvin Ridley, rookie wide receiver from Alabama, who was playing with the Falcons. I took a chance on him because I think Julio Jones is going to see a lot of double coverages, so they're going to have to find somebody else out there. LeGarrette Blount went 4th pick in the draft in the 13th round, and Martavius Bryant went number 8 in that round. Moving on to round 14, I took Dallas Goedert, another long shot. I think he's the tight end of the future for Philadelphia, so which probably really doesn't help me right now. But, if something happens to Ertz, which I don't wish injury on to anybody, but it does happen, Dallas Goedert will be the number 1 tight end option in Philly, who they do love to use their tight ends in Philly. And 2 other tight ends went in that round 14, with the 1st pick in round 14, Trey Burton from Chicago, and with the 5th pick, Vance McDonald for the Steelers. Winding down the draft with the last 2 rounds, in round 15 with the number 2 pick, the Marcus Mariota went. I picked up Sam Darnold, which I already dropped Sam Darnold for the wide receiver from Jacksonville. I sort of can't remember his name. I got to look him up. But I think, let me look that up right now. Keelan Cole. So I dropped Sam Darnold for Keelan Cole. And, Keelan Cole now is the number 1 option in Jacksonville with the Marquise Lee injury. So I'm taking a chance on him. And I take a lot of chances in my fantasy draft as I, get my starting lineup out there and I look for, reserves and all that. And always in my draft, my last pick, I always take my kicker because I really don't, emphasize on kicker. Why people draft kickers before the final round, I don't get, because you can usually find a good kicker anywhere. Harrison Butker from Kansas City, he was ranked as the number 2 kicker in the fantasy league last year. And the kicker I wanted was Greg Zuerlein, but he was taken pretty early. I was hoping that he would slip to round 16 where I could take him, and I'm sort of looking to see where he was taken because I was pretty shocked that he was taken that soon, but I think he was taken in round 12. Let me look at this real quick. Round 11. Yeah, a guy took a kicker, and Greg Zuerlein is a great kicker. He scored a lot of points for me last year. he was averaging anywhere between 12 and 20 points a game, and that's great for a kicker. But to take him in round 11, that's a really high pick right there for a kicker. And I think I got a good value pick with Harrison Butker. So that was our fantasy draft. Share your thoughts on your fantasy draft with us by messaging us on Twitter at iFanTalk. You can also, message us on our Facebook page, #iFanTalk. Tell us about your draft. CBS Sportsline manages our league. We've always used CBS Sportsline. They rated my draft as a B-. I think my draft was ranked 6 out of the 10 teams. They thought I went a little too high on Rodgers. I think that's sort of what brought me down. But they sort of liked my pick in Adrian Peterson, too. So, if Adrian Peterson's out there in rounds 5, 6, or 7, guys, grab him. Washington really doesn't have any other options. So that is my episode. I want to thank everybody for joining us. As you all know, it is college football Saturday. There's a lot of games on tonight. I watched the Stanford-San Diego State game. Pretty entertaining game. Utah State almost upset Michigan State in East Lansing. I didn't see the game, but I just saw the highlights. Some great games today with West Virginia and Tennessee. You have Auburn against Washington, and of course, the big game that I am looking forward to today, Michigan and Notre Dame. Happy football watching today. We're only 5 days away from NFL kickoff with a great opening day kickoff with the Eagles and the Falcons. The Falcons are being picked by a lot of people to win the Super Bowl this year, so what a way to kick off the NFL. And then we have next Sunday, I got my NFL ticket all geared up. I even threatened to cancel it, and they gave me a $100 discount.
I am the smartest man alive! I am the smartest man alive!
Yes, I am. I saved myself $100 on the NFL ticket. That's what you need to do. Cancel it. They'll come back and give you an offer. I wasn't going to pay $400 for the NFL ticket this year. I think that was a little too much. So, thanks again. This is your host, Nikki Fu. This is the Live in 5 Show, episode 31. I will see all you folks down
out there left you in again. Love is all you want, but you're never gonna feel the same. It's hard to be yourself whenever